For those of you who don't know what the deep web is, it's basically hell's side of the internet. What I exactly mean by hell is that you could see some stuff on there that will scar you for life, and it's definitely not a place you want to go. Some people go on the deep web to look for drugs, while others use it for other things which I won't go into main detail at this moment. I know some people who have heard of these horror stories on YouTube about the deep web, saying that they were illegal pornography sites, murder torture sites, hitmen, and other disgusting fetish sites. Some people went on the deep web to see if it was actually true, and ended up never finding it. But that's because they didn't look deep enough. I made a huge mistake going on the deep web, and thought the whole thing sounded like a joke to me, but it's definitely not. Let me tell you my story. My name is Jane, and I was about 16 years old when this happened. I did well in school and I had some friends here and there, but sometimes I would find myself lonely eating at lunch with nobody around. I used to get bullied in school a lot because the kids thought of me as weak and quote, not cool enough. At one point, I was fed up with the whole bullying situation and I started doing illegal activities such as drugs, fighting, and hanging out with the type of people who would do that type of stuff. You know the type of people I mean. I made a friend named Daniel at one point, and Daniel was the type of guy who sold weed, cocaine, and marijuana. In other words, he was a drug dealer. I bought some stuff from him before, but I wasn't exactly sure how he got all the drugs. At one point, I had asked him where he got all his drugs from, and then he started to talk to me about the deep web. I've heard of this place before, but didn't really know what it actually was. Me being unaware of the deep web, I asked him what it exactly was. He went on to tell me that the deep web was just a place where you could buy drugs off of, and just people on there who tried to expose government or military secrets. He told me that if I wanted to check it out, that I should download the Tor browser, which is basically an anonymous browser that keeps your IP address hidden. So, I stupidly took his advice and downloaded the Tor browser when I got home. I've heard about what could happen to me, but I stupidly ignored it. I launched Tor and I was now in the entrance of the so-called deep web. I clicked through forums and websites and all I basically saw was a bunch of drug sites and sites that contained documents that were in Chinese or some foreign language. So yeah, nothing too dark. I went on for hours and hours just exploring and trying to find something interesting besides drugs. This went on for about 3 hours, scrolling through link after link when I stumbled upon a link that was in red while all the other ones were in blue. I knew that this link was special and that something had to be behind this link. The link was basically a bunch of random letters and numbers. For example, A3XXR933DT.onion. I clicked on the link in red and then it took me to a white blank page. At first, I thought it was maybe a broken link, but some words popped up on the top left-hand corner of my screen. It said, redirecting you to what you came here for, with a smiley face next to it. I was a bit curious of what I was about to see. In case it was one of those weird sickening fetish sites, I wouldn't mind it because I've seen some pretty messed up things on sites like Bestgore, and I thought it would be ready. The thing is, I wasn't. The page then finally loaded up, and I saw a site that had a bunch of torture and murder. I can't remember the site's name as it looked like it was from a foreign country, but I saw pictures of innocent human beings going through horrible pain. I came across a video of what looked like a teenage girl naked and tied to a chair. She had a lit firework in her mouth. I could see tears running down her cheeks, and I could hear her muffled screams as the spark was almost coming in contact with the firework. I knew what was about to happen, and I exited out of the video and tried to get out of the site. I knew that I should have listened to those YouTube videos and not to go on the deep web, but my curiosity got the better of me. I put my cursor over the X and clicked, but it didn't close out. I tried it again, but it still didn't close. After several times of clicking rapidly, the page finally closed. I breathed a sigh of relief and swore to myself never to go back to the deep web. However, a few minutes later, a small black video box popped up on my screen. I was confused at first, but then the screen was filled with static. The screen then showed someone sitting at a desk wearing a vendetta mask. He was talking in a voice in what I could only describe as demonic. He said something along the lines of,
"If you come back, I will kill you."
I told him that he was sick in the head and that he deserved to burn in hell. He then said,
"Well, okay. I see you live in Idaho, and I have your address here."
He then disconnected and I went to my room. I was sure that he was just joking to scare me, but then I thought about how these people can find your address and that if they weren't lying, so I was creeped out. About a week later, I was home alone and my parents had gone to a convention for work. At this point, I already forgotten about my experience on the deep web. I had just finished some homework for geometry class, and then I decided to go to the freezer to grab some ice cream while watching TV. As I was getting ice cream, I heard a loud knock at my door. The knock was very loud and very fast, as if whoever was on the other side was angry. I looked through the peephole and saw at least 6 different men dressed in black hoodies wearing masks. I gasped while still looking through the peephole. One guy looked straight at the peephole and slowly started to wave his hand as if he could see me. I stepped back and ran upstairs into my room and hid under my bed. I then heard glass break from downstairs, along with them cussing and telling threats. I tried to stay as quiet as possible while they were opening doors and going into rooms trying to find me. Eventually, I heard someone coming up the stairs fast and stopping at the door to my bedroom. I could see the outlines of shoes at the bottom, and I knew that whoever these people were coming inside. Not even 3 seconds later, they kicked down my door and they started ruining everything trying to find me. Yanking my closet door open, pulling off my blanket and sheets. I then felt 2 hands grab my feet and pull me out. I screamed as loud as I could, and they all started to surround me while putting duct tape over my mouth and tying rope around my hands and feet. I couldn't move now. One of the men took out a quarter stick, which for those of you who don't know is basically a small stick of dynamite. He then proceeded to open my mouth and light the fuse. I knew what was going to happen now. I was going to end up like that girl in that video. Before he was going to put it in my mouth, I heard 2 or 3 men from downstairs break open my front door. They came into my room and said, "Police, get down on the ground." All of the men got down except for one who tried to fight the officers and ended up getting tased. They put all of the men in cuffs and was eventually taken away. My parents arrived soon after, and I cried and cried because I was literally 2 seconds away from dying. The men were all sentenced to death, and thank God they were. My neighbors saw these men at my front door and then called police. It turns out, these men had kidnapped hundreds of teens just like me and ended up killing them for entertainment. I really hope those sick people get what they deserve. The deep web is not a joke. It is in fact a real place on the internet that exists. If you think you're tough enough and you think you're brave enough to go explore it, then be my guest, but you will regret it if you make a mistake. So if you ever heard those horror stories about what goes on in the deep web, then they are in fact true. I was stupid and clumsy for doing this, but I at least learned the hard way and found out the truth about the deep web.